I didn't knock. I didn't announce myself. I just stepped onto the porch of the house I once called home, 12 years older, sharper, and nothing like the child they had dismissed so easily. The same house, the same white picket fence, but the air felt different, heavier, colder, like it had been waiting for my return. 12 years ago, I had been rejected. My parents had looked at me, shaking their heads, and told me I didn't belong in their plans, in their world. They had chosen appearances over love, convenience over truth. I had been just a child, confused, hurt, and powerless. My departure had been quiet, a small suitcase and a promise never to return. Now, I was back. The front door creaked as I stepped inside, and everything smelled like memory, the polished floors, the faint scent of my mother's perfume lingering like a ghost, the framed family photos that had captured smiles now long frozen in the past. My father was the first to notice me, his eyes widening as recognition battled disbelief. My mother's lips parted, caught somewhere between shock and fear. "Is it really you?" my mother whispered, her voice fragile, trembling. I smiled. Not a smile of warmth, but of control. "It's me," I said simply. Back. They had been my world, and now they were my audience. 12 years had changed me, hardened me, yes, but also polished me into someone who could command a room with silence. The betrayal of their rejection had left a wound, but it had also forged a resolve stronger than any love they had tried to crush. For all their smiles and gestures of surprise, I felt it, the subtle unease in their eyes. The flicker of guilt quickly masked by confusion. The tension in the air was almost tangible, like the calm before a storm. They thought I had returned for reconciliation, for explanations. They didn't know I had returned to rewrite the rules of this house, to reclaim what they had tried to erase. And in that quiet, charged moment, I realized something crucial: the child they had dismissed had been gone for 12 years. The person standing before them now was no longer powerless, no longer naive. Every memory of rejection, every tear shed in silence, had been collected, transformed, and sharpened into strategy. I didn't speak again. I let them stew in their shock, the weight of my presence filling the room. Their guilt, their fear, their uncertainty, it was all visible now. And I could feel it, the first tremors of what was coming. After 12 years of being rejected and forgotten, I had returned. And nothing would ever be the same again. The first few days back were a careful dance. My parents tried to act normal, welcoming, even joyous, but there were cracks as small, almost imperceptible, yet impossible to ignore. It started with favoritism. My younger cousin, the one they had always adored, was suddenly the center of attention. Every story, every meal, every conversation seemed to revolve around him. I tried to join in, to share memories, but my attempts were met with polite smiles and hurried changes of topic. I was present, yet invisible. Then came the secret of calls. I would walk past the study and hear my father's deep voice, hushed, urgent, speaking in tones that carried weight and secrecy. I caught my mother glancing at her phone and quickly pocketing it whenever I entered the room. The whispers, the sudden silences, they were subtle but unmistakable. Something was being hidden. Money issues surfaced too. While helping organize old family accounts, something I had always done willingly, I noticed discrepancies. Withdrawals that didn't match receipts, funds missing from joint accounts, misplaced checks that had conveniently disappeared over the years. Nothing that could be easily proven yet, but enough to seed doubt. And then there were the lies. I overheard my parents discussing events from my childhood, stories twisted to paint me as spoiled, ungrateful, even manipulative. It stung, the casual way they dismissed me in front of relatives, as though the 12 years I spent away had erased my experiences, my pain, my reality. Each subtle action weighed heavily on me. Emotionally, I felt the familiar mix of anger and sadness that had haunted me since my rejection. Memories of past humiliation, of being dismissed, of being forgotten, resurfaced with every glance, every hushed conversation. My heart ached not just from the past, but from the realization that the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally had never truly seen me. Yet, beneath the pain, a part of me sharpened. Every slight, every secretive glance, every whispered call, these were clues. Red flags. Indicators that my parents, the very people who had rejected me, had continued patterns of manipulation and concealment even after all these years. I couldn't confront them yet. They would dismiss me, laugh, or turn the narrative against me, as they always had. No, patience was necessary. Observation, careful documentation, and strategy were the keys. But the seed of doubt was planted. Something was very wrong beneath the surface of this seemingly happy reunion, and I could feel it. 12 years of absence had not made me blind. And for the first time in years, I felt ready to see the truth, whatever it might cost. I never expected it to hit me like this. I was sifting through old family papers, trying to piece together memories and timelines for my own closure, when I found it, a thick envelope labeled in my mother's handwriting, for emergencies only. My hands trembled as I opened it, revealing documents I had no idea existed. Wills. Trust funds. Property deeds. Accounts. And every single one had been altered. Names crossed out, percentages changed, signatures forged. My parents, the people who had cast me aside, had deliberately erased my share of the inheritance. Everything my father and mother had promised me, everything I was legally entitled to, had been siphoned away. I sank to the floor, my mind reeling. The betrayal was deeper than rejection, it was calculated, cold, and intentional. They had taken the very foundation of my security, my birthright, and replaced it with silence, manipulation, and lies. All those years away, all those months of living your life, as they had said when casting me out, were meaningless to them because they had been quietly rewriting my future without me. I felt my chest tighten with rage, and disbelief battled with heartbreak. How could the people who were supposed to protect me, nurture me, love me, betray me in such a fundamental way? 12 years of absence had not softened their greed or their cruelty. And now, confronted with the proof, I could see it in black and white, the evidence of their deception was undeniable. I wanted to scream, to throw the papers across the room, to confront them immediately. But even in my fury, a cold clarity settled in. This wasn't a moment for rashness. My parents had underestimated me for the last 12 years. They had thought that a child they rejected would return powerless, timid, easily swayed. They had forgotten that I was no longer that child. Slowly, I gathered the documents, organizing them, cataloging every alteration, every suspicious transaction, every forged signature. Each discovery wasn't just proof, it was a tool, a weapon that could turn the tables. I felt the seed of strategy growing in the soil of my anger. The betrayal was total, personal, and deliberate. They hadn't just rejected me, they had tried to erase me, to rewrite history in their favor. But now, I held the key to exposing them. I stood, a surge of determination coursing through me. 12 years of absence had prepared me for this moment, and I realized something crucial. The people who had tried to forget me had forgotten one thing. I wasn't powerless anymore. And the reckoning would be inevitable. I sat on the edge of my childhood bed, the documents spread around me like pieces of a puzzle I had been given 12 years too late. At first, the weight of betrayal had crushed me, the knowledge that my own parents had manipulated, forged, and stolen from me left a hollow ache in my chest. I had been rejected, forgotten, and erased from my family's future. The grief was sharp, raw, and suffocating. But then, something shifted. I realized that despair was exactly what they had wanted. For years, I had carried the silent burden of their rejection, replaying memories of hurt and humiliation. If I let that pain consume me now, it would be the final victory for them. I could feel the anger simmering beneath the surface, hot and potent, but alongside it, a new feeling emerged, clarity. This wasn't about revenge for the sake of vengeance. It was about reclaiming my life, my voice, my place in the world. It was about showing them, and the world, that their attempts to erase me had failed. That the child they dismissed had grown into someone who couldn't be ignored, who couldn't be silenced, who wouldn't be powerless. I looked at the papers again, reading each line, each alteration, each signature. It became clear, the betrayal wasn't sloppy or unintentional. It was deliberate, a calculated attempt to control my future. And yet, in their arrogance, they had left a trail. Every forged signature, every altered account, every hidden transaction, proof waiting to be used. In that moment, the grief began to morph into resolve. I wasn't just going to confront them, I was going to expose them. Not recklessly, not out of emotion, but strategically. Every bit of evidence would be organized, every lie documented, every manipulation revealed. I would turn the very tools they used to erase me into the instruments of their accountability. I stood up, the room feeling suddenly smaller, as if the walls themselves recognized the change in me. The hurt had sharpened into focus. The disbelief had crystallized into purpose. I felt a fierce determination I hadn't known I possessed. I realized the truth, the 12 years of rejection hadn't destroyed me, they had prepared me. Prepared me to be stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. They thought they had forgotten me. They thought I would remain powerless. But now, I had power. And when the time came, they would see it, the child they rejected, the sibling they dismissed, standing taller, stronger, and unyielding. I wasn't just back. I was ready. And nothing would ever be the same again. I didn't rush. That was the first rule I made for myself. People like my parents thrived on impulsive emotions, on tears, accusations, and loud confrontations they could easily twist into proof that I was unstable. I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. Instead, I observed. Quietly. Patiently. Step 1 was gathering proof. Every night, after they went to bed, I returned to the study. I photographed documents, scanned altered wills, downloaded bank statements, and cross-referenced dates. I compared old copies with new ones, highlighting discrepancies, missing signatures, changed percentages, sudden transfers that coincided perfectly with my disappearance 12 years ago. I backed everything up in multiple places, cloud storage, encrypted drives, even a physical copy hidden off-site. Step 2 was confirming intent. Betrayal becomes undeniable when motive is clear. I listened more closely during dinners, letting them talk. My father bragged about smart financial planning. My mother mentioned how some people don't deserve what they don't work for. Each comment felt casual to them, but to me, they were confessions. I recorded what I could. Dates. Times. Words. Step 3 was building witnesses. I reached out to extended family under the guise of reconnecting. I asked innocent questions about the past, about promises made, about what had been said when I left. Stories didn't line up. Some relatives remembered funds set aside for me. Others recalled heated arguments my parents claimed never happened. Their confusion worked in my favor. Truth, when compared, exposes lies naturally. Meanwhile, my parents remained comfortable. Confident. They still believed I was the lost child who had returned seeking approval. They spoke freely in front of me, assuming I didn't understand finances, law, or leverage. That was their biggest mistake. The trap wasn't confrontation, it was timing. I contacted a lawyer quietly. Then an auditor. Not accusations, just verification. Professionals don't need drama, they need data. And I had plenty. I watched my parents plan future renovations, vacations, investments funded by money that should have partly been mine. Every laugh at the dinner table tightened the tension in my chest, but I held it in. Because I knew something they didn't. They thought the past was buried. They thought I had nothing. They thought they were safe. And that's when people are most vulnerable. As I finalized the last step, choosing when and how the truth would surface, I felt the tension peak. The evidence was complete. The plan was airtight. All that remained was execution. They had forgotten me for 12 years. Soon, they would remember me for the rest of their lives. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and tension. My parents sat side by side, confident in the life they had meticulously built, unaware that the foundation beneath them was about to crumble. 12 years of scheming, of lies, of stolen inheritance, all of it was about to be laid bare. I walked in with my head held high, carrying the folder that had been my constant companion for months. Every document, every bank statement, every altered will was there. Every whisper of betrayal, every calculated move they had made to erase me from my own life, had been catalogued, verified, and preserved. When the judge called the case to order, my mother's eyes darted toward me, wide with disbelief. My father's jaw tightened, a forced mask of calm. They had thought I would remain powerless, that my absence had silenced me forever. I presented the evidence carefully, step by step. First, the altered trust funds and wills. Then, the falsified bank transfers, supported by auditor reports. Finally, recorded statements from relatives who confirmed their memories of promises broken. Each revelation was a blow, precise and undeniable. The courtroom murmured. Gasps, whispers, and sudden stares filled the room. My parents tried to interject, but every objection was dismantled with evidence, every lie exposed before it could gain traction. They were cornered, trapped by their own hubris. Then came the final piece, the timing. Just as the judge prepared to adjourn for recess, I revealed the hidden clause in one of the wills, a condition they had thought no one would notice. It ensured that all future family assets reverted directly to me if I returned and could substantiate the alterations. The room fell silent. Even the court reporters paused, stunned. My parents' expressions crumbled. The father who had once dismissed me now trembled, realizing that the fortune he had thought secure was slipping away. The mother who had smiled at my irrelevance sat frozen, tears threatening, powerless to undo the damage. Outside the courtroom, news cameras captured the scene. The live-streamed proceedings, intended to broadcast the dignity of our family, now broadcast their disgrace to everyone they knew. The world witnessed their hubris and greed, their attempts to erase me finally exposed. As I stepped out of the courtroom, the crisp winter air hit my face. Relief and triumph surged through me. 12 years of absence had led to this. Justice served not with anger, but with patience, strategy, and undeniable proof. My parents had tried to reject and forget me. Instead, they had set the stage for their own downfall. The child they dismissed had returned, not broken, not powerless, but unstoppable. And the reckoning was complete. The courtroom chaos had ended, but the echoes lingered. My parents were broken, not physically, but socially, financially, and emotionally. The community that once admired them now whispered, judged, and watched. Their carefully curated reputation lay in ruins, dismantled by truth and patience. I, on the other hand, felt an unfamiliar weight lift from my shoulders. 12 years of rejection, humiliation, and silence had forged me into someone who no longer feared confrontation or betrayal. I had returned not just to claim what was mine, but to reclaim my dignity, my voice, and my life. Every whispered slight, every act of dismissal had become fuel for my strength. Family members approached me with cautious respect. Cousins, aunts, uncles, people who had once watched silently as I was cast aside, now sought my guidance, my counsel, even my forgiveness. I offered none of it yet, because part of the victory lay in letting them witness the consequences of injustice. My parents' downfall was complete, and the world knew it. I stepped outside the courthouse, sunlight hitting my face, and felt a clarity I had never known. The child who had been rejected and forgotten was gone. In her place stood someone resilient, decisive, and unyielding. I was free not just from their control, but from the shadows of doubt, pain, and invisibility that had once defined me. The poetic justice was undeniable. The parents who had tried to erase me from their lives had unintentionally built the stage for their own humiliation. Every lie, every forgery, every act of greed had been captured, exposed, and shared publicly. In their effort to control me, they had handed me the power to dismantle them entirely. And that power wasn't fueled by revenge alone, it was fueled by justice, patience, and clarity. To everyone watching, have you ever been dismissed, rejected, or betrayed by someone you trusted the most? Felt invisible in the life you were supposed to share? Share your story in the comments. I want to hear how you reclaimed your strength. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe. Because sometimes, the ones who think they've forgotten you are the very people who will be undone by the truth you carry. After 12 years of silence, absence, and dismissal, I returned. And the world finally remembered me. The child they rejected had grown into the force that no betrayal could contain.